From the perspective of the Inter-American Development Bank, where do you see these four countries going also with the aspect that we outline in the paper, which is that actually the Pacific Pumas are a great investment destination for the European Union. But what would it take in order to get more attention from the European Union to these countries? The floor is yours, Tony.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Annette. It's a pleasure to be here as part of this panel with ambassadors, also with Eric and with Sam. Congratulations for a great report on a topic that still we have very limited literature, so this is a very welcome contribution. Let me just first, before referring to your specific question on the European Union, to give a kind of our own interpretation of what's happening in the Pacific Alliance. Not as much as the process itself, but as much as a process that is responding to big changes that are happening in the global economy, and seeing the Pacific Alliance as a mechanism that has allowed these countries to adjust to those big changes. Changes that has happened around the world in the last 15 years. And I think there are three important ones. One is the increasing importance of Asia Pacific for Latin America. Pacific Alliance has been an adjustment mechanism to that. You have to remember that around 10, 15 years ago, trade with Latin America was very limited, less than 10%. Today has more than double that amount, it's more than 20%. The Pacific Alliance represents 50% of that increased share. So this is a huge change in terms of who are your partners around the world and how these countries really adjust to these new markets, in some cases new competitors, to creating this type of new initiatives. So that's the first kind of big change. The second one is, has already been mentioned very well by Sam. This alliance is in a way a natural step of what these four countries were already doing in terms of being part of a global network of FTAs. We know that really the architecture today around the world on trade is really driven by these FTAs. We have more than 300, some people 400 FTAs. It represents between 40%, 60% of global trade really undertaken under these FTAs. These four countries in our region are the ones who have been more proactive in connecting, not only among themselves, as it has been said, they have very modern bilateral, they had very modern bilateral agreements already among themselves, but they have very modern bilateral FTAs with major markets, the European Union, the US, and Asia. So it was a natural step in a way that they also start looking at increasing convergence, and this is one of the trends that we observe around the world. Countries start trying to harmonize some of the rules that they have created as part of these bilateral agreements. It has been mentioned what they achieved a couple of weeks ago when they signed the agreement in Cartagena in terms of the liberalization of tariffs, but one very important thing that is less mentioned because it's less fashionable, it's less attractive, is what they achieved in terms of the convergence of a very nitty-gritty thing that is called rules of origin in those agreements. They unify these rules of origin, they create a platform for accumulation. This means that now inputs can move around much easily in terms of taking advantages of the preferences. And this brings me to the last point, or last kind of a change that I think we have been observing in the last 15 years at the global economy, which is this issue of fragmented, what we call global production change, the fragmentation of production. We don't produce anymore the whole things, the whole good. We just have to import things to produce other things. Latin America is not fully participating, as we know, in this global production change or regional global change. I think the alliance is in a step, Pacific Alliance is in a step in creating the conditions so that these countries will be able to participate better in this fragmented world. There's a very interesting number to remember on this. When you look at your own exports, what you want to look is how much foreign value added is included in those exports, so how much you have to import to actually export. This is very high in Asia. We know that these Asian guys, the Asian tigers, are fully participated in this multi-fragmented world. It's around 40% of what Asian countries export is foreign value added they have actually imported. The number for the Pacific Alliance is still very small. It's less than 20%. If you measure in more traditional terms, intra-regional trade, the trade that is taking place between these four countries, is very small. It's around 5% of the total trade. So it's still very limited amount of intra-regional production integration, and that's part, I think, of what the alliance is trying to do, to create platforms for that type of participation in this global value chain. And this brings me very briefly to your question, Annette. A lot of what the Pacific Alliance is doing, in my view, is in a way is about trade, but it's about investment. It's to create platforms, branding for foreign firms to be able to invest not in one country but in the whole region. When we think about, I mean, many of you are part of working in big multinationals, big firms. When big firms think about investing in Southeast Asia, they don't think about Vietnam or Thailand. They think about ASEAN. They think about big platforms in which they can invest in one country, move things around. People should move. Investment can be also freely transferred from one place to another. And I think this is part actually of the objective that Alliance should have. And it will be, of course, impacting not only Europe, but other countries that have very important interest in investment in these countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony.